Hey everybody, it's Ken Perry with Broker Knowledge Group, and this week for your update, what I wanted to do for you is cover mortgage fraud in about 3 minutes. I'm not going to cover what is fraud. What I want to do is there was a report that came out from Forbes. Forbes, a very reliable source, issued a report on mortgage fraud, and Forbes really likes putting like the, what states does this happen in, where's the best place to live to raise a family, all that type of stuff. Well, they came out with what states are the worst for mortgage fraud. The problem is the information's incorrect. So I want to clear it up for you so that we're all on the same page, we know what's going on. In the report, they're referring to a report that was done by what we call MARI, or the Mortgage Asset Research Institute. A lot of people call them MARI, whatever. They're owned by LexisNexis. They put out reports on mortgage fraud. Well, the report that just came out has got 10 states that mortgage fraud is greatest in, let's say. So Forbes picked that up and put those 10 states out there and said, watch out, these are the states that have mortgage fraud. Now, number 1, 2, and 3, Florida, New York, and California. A lot of people think, yeah, there's probably fraud in those states just because, of the activity that was going on that pumped up the market. But then you get down the list and you see New Jersey, Maryland, Michigan, Virginia, Ohio, Colorado, Illinois, and you think, those aren't states that I would think of having a high fraud content. Well, if you're just reading that article, you may get really confused thinking that those are bad states. I mean, even Florida, New York, and California got some pretty bad press from being at the top of the list. So let's clear that up. The list isn't of the states where mortgage fraud is the most, and it also isn't going to tell you what's happening right now. All it tells you is what's being reported right now. What's being reported right now is fraud that was on files that were funded 3 to 5 years ago. I mean, it could be current, but most of the stuff is older. So when they go to foreclose on a file, that's when they report the fraud. Well, what that's naturally going to do is in any state that has a high foreclosure rate, you're going to find more fraud because you're digging it up when you go in and do the foreclosure. So automatically, New York, Florida, California, mainly Florida and California with their high foreclosure rates, those guys are going to be at the top of the charts. So the guys at the bottom, maybe there's some Michigan, for example, on the list. They have a high foreclosure rate. They're going to show up. But here's the other really skewed data about that report. The report is not of cases. You don't get onto the top 10 by having the most. You get onto the top 10 by having the highest MIDEX. That is the MARI index of fraud. The MIDEX is where MARI or MARI went out and said, we expect this amount of fraud in that state. So if you come in exactly at the fraud they expected, you get a 100 MIDEX score. So all that's telling you is if New Jersey's showing up on the list, it means they came in over quota on mortgage fraud. Doesn't mean that there's more fraud happening there. It means that there's more than they expected. So in summary, we're not getting a report of where the mortgage fraud is. All we're getting is where is it surprising us that there's more mortgage fraud than we expected. So if you guys check that article out, that Forbes article, just make sure it's not getting forwarded around because that group, the LexisNexis group that creates that report, they do it for a reason. Sometimes the media takes it and likes to spin off some other stuff. Be interesting to look at the articles in the newspaper over there in Ohio and Colorado and Illinois to see if they picked it up and said, hey, we're on the top 10. It's nothing to be nervous about, simply a report of guesstimates. So hopefully that helps. Fraud is definitely still there, but it's there on a minor level right now. What is up right now is the reporting of fraud simply because of high foreclosure rates. Hope that helps you guys. I will talk to you next week. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.